Ashley and this is Grayson and we are our full-time adventure. Today we're going to be sharing with you 5 boondocking tips and make sure to stay on the whole video because at the end we have some bonus tips for you as well.
So these tips help us stay out longer, stay off grid longer, and just have to see campgrounds to dump or get more water less often. So Ashley's going to share the first one with you, which is use water sparingly.
Hi, we're Ashley and Grayson and we travel full-time with our 2 dogs and our cat. Our home on wheels is a Ford F-250 with a Cirrus 820 truck camper. If you love adventures, amazing views, and exploring new places, consider subscribing to our channel. We also show you the everyday reality of living this lifestyle. Follow along as we continue to live our life on the road and share it with you. We live full-time in our Cirrus 820 truck camper, so we have 38 gallons of fresh water on board and then we have an additional 6, which brings us to 42 gallons of fresh water. So this is where we actually fill up our water, and usually, we just stick a hose in there. We can find water at gas stations, at campgrounds, all over the place really, and we just ask if we can use the water. We find them on different apps that we use, but we also will fill up our 6 gallons at the same time so that if we are boondocking and we're running low on water, all we need to do is take this, and it's a great height to just put it on my shoulder, sometimes put it on my head. Usually Grayson does this and he puts it on his shoulder and it works. I don't usually do it. And then basically you just stick it in the hole there, you tip it up, and then all the water will go in there and you'll have an extra 6 gallons. Now that I've showed you how much water we have, how we fill our water, and how we use our extra water, I'm going to bring you inside and show you how we conserve our water and use as little as possible to keep us out even longer. Now that we're inside and I'm by the sink, I'm going to show you how I wash the dishes without using so much water. It's not much different than washing dishes at home, except I turn the water on just a little bit to have a trickle. I get soap on the sponge, and then I basically just do it as quick as possible. Typically doing the dishes fast makes a big mess, but it's worth it not to use all the water. I'd rather just clean up the water afterwards. Also, for something like this, when there's something stuck on it, I turn off the water, scrub it until I get it off, and then I'll turn the water back on. Then once I have everything off, I'll turn back on the water. Another way that we conserve water is we usually shower every other day, unless like we're super sweaty, we had a long hiking day or whatever it is, then we might want to shower. And in between showers, we actually take advantage of baby wipes. They work really well just to get like a little clean down. If you're not super sweaty, super gross, it works great to hold you over between showers. But if we are going to shower in our camper, I'm going to show you how we do it to save the most amount of water. So I am standing in our very little shower and I have our shower head right here. So this shower head actually has an on and an off button. So basically you can turn it on when you're washing your hair, when you're getting your hair wet, and then when you're lathering up, you just switch it off. So I'll show you kind of what it looks like when the water's on and how you can switch it on and off. So first of all, to get wet, we just need to turn on the shower. Then once our hair is wet, we can turn it off, lather up our hair, lather up our body, and when we're ready to rinse off all the soap, we just turn it back on. It's as simple as that. That is how we conserve our water while we're boondocking. And now we're going to go over to Grayson with tip number 2.
So boondocking tip number 2 is consuming energy efficiently. And this here is our Victron battery monitor. And so this tells us what level our batteries are at. And this we rely on heavily for our consumption of energy and how we go about our days, whether that be cooking or plugging in our laptops, as simple as that. We actually have 800 watts of solar on the roof, 400 amp hours of lithium under our seat, and a 3000 watt Victron inverter. And we have battle-born batteries, which are absolutely amazing. But let me show you some of the things we go through in order to use our energy efficiently. So being that we do work full-time on the road, and we do need to conserve our energy, we typically opt to charge our devices during the day. And so this is great because it's peak sun, and the sun actually charges our devices and uses the sun's energy because it just keeps our batteries topped off. Typically we like to pre-cook things when we know we have power. If we know we're going out somewhere for 4 or 5 days or not going to have power besides the sun, we don't really like to use our air fryer without hookup, even though we could. So if we're at a Boondockers Welcome or something, or a campground where we can use power to pre-cook food, we do make sure to do that. And so we do that pretty often. We also try to find spots that tend to have sunlight like this, because that helps charge our batteries. This spot not so good. But it does make you feel better in the camper. Sometimes you gotta figure out if you're gonna park in the shade to be more comfortable and use less energy like fans, or park in the sun to charge and use more energy like fans. But if solar is not an option for you, which it wasn't for us a little while ago, we had to make sure we conserved our propane, because that was what we did have on board. But you also need to make sure that you conserve your generator fuel, and you need to figure out when it's worth using your generator. So typically, we thought using our generator was more efficient for us during the day, because not only could we run the ACs, but we can run our high wattage appliances as well as our ACs and things of that sort. We did have two 3500 generators, so one can actually power the ACs, and the other one we can run an extension cord inside for our high energy items. If you're not fully solar, definitely learn how to conserve your fuel and your propane when you're getting out there, because we have had issues with this in the past when it gets really cold. Now on to tip number 3.
Oh my gosh, I didn't see you there. Tip number 3 is to keep your tank usage low. If we're boondocking, we use the restroom outside as much as possible. We also shower outside, which saves us water in our gray tank. So our black tank is where all of our waste goes, and since we use the restroom outside for the most part, that doesn't really hold us back from staying somewhere, because we can last like a month with our black tank. And our gray water is what comes from the shower and the sink, and this is really what held us back, because our gray water would fill up so fast and then we're like, all right, we have to leave. But we do use natural soap, which means you are able to dump that water on the floor, and we've come up with a contraption. We actually have this hose right here, and it connects to our gray water, so as we're washing dishes, the gray water goes right onto the floor and just trickles out, and then it's basically as if we don't even have a gray water tank, and we're able to stay for a very long time wherever we want. Now on to boondocking tip number 4.
Wow, that's freaking awesome. Oh, hey, boondocking tip number 4. Make sure your rig will fit. So we haven't always been this cute little truck camper. We've actually had 2 truck campers, but a lot of our boondocking we did with 2 different fifth wheels that we had. One was 38 feet long, and one was upwards of a little over 40 feet, and we got the most spots with minimal damage. And I say that because the more research we did, the less damage our rig endured or took on. And so we use apps like Campendium, which is great for larger rigs because I feel like there are more pictures and more detailed reviews. But now we use things like iOverlander. And since iOverlander is more for overlanding rigs, we actually have more spots we can get to with such a small rig. And just because someone says it's big rig friendly or you're gonna fit and the pictures look good, we still do our due diligence and we check Google Maps and we go in the satellite view with the coordinates to confirm that it looks clear enough for us to go there, specifically when there are conditions that might hold us back, like mud or so on and so forth. We don't want to have to be dealing with a bunch of trees and mud at the same time. We like to do one obstacle at a time. So now on to boondocking tip number 5.
The final tip, number 5, is to always check the weather before you are headed to a spot. Especially if you are headed to a remote spot by yourself, you want to make sure you know, did it just rain? Is there going to be mud? Was there any kind of flooding? You need to know all these things because you do not want to get yourself in a bad situation. There are many different ways that you can check the weather, different apps, websites. There is no limitation to being able to find out what you need. The last thing I will say about the weather is it is great to have a backup plan because in case it ends up being different than you were expecting, you need to know that you have somewhere else to go. And usually that ends up being a Walmart or Cracker Barrel or something because you know there's not going to be any flooding or mud there. But if you were headed to a remote spot, it might be an hour or so away. And those were our top 5 tips, but we do have a few additional tips. Before we get there, don't forget to like this video, comment what you think so far, and subscribe if you haven't already. All right, let's get into the bonus tips.
So here are our 3 bonus tips, and we're kind of just gonna popcorn back and forth. You know that we love that. And I'm gonna let Ashley take off with the first one.
So the first thing is to make sure that you are stocked up on food. I know this probably sounds kind of easy, it's like of course, but there have been times where we have gotten to a spot and we're like, wait a minute, we haven't been grocery shopping in like a week, we only have like a day or 2 of food left. What are we gonna do? So it's great to make sure that you stock up on food, and also it is great to be stocked up on canned foods that you might not eat otherwise, just in case you are in a situation where you either don't have food or if you get stuck somewhere a little bit longer than anticipated. It's great to have that backup because the last thing you want to do is be stranded without anything to eat.
Bonus tip number 2 is make sure you have communication. So for us, we work online. Being able to get online and stay online is very important. And Ashley receives calls all day long, so it's important for us to have signal or Wi-Fi of some sort. So we have 3 different ways that we can obtain this, and we have the first one, which is a WooBoost cell booster, and we absolutely love it. It works pretty well. If you have no service, it will not work, but if you have very little service, it does help. Our second one that we have is our Starlink. And so this is great when you can get to a spot that is very, it can be very treed, but you need to have a lot of area or sky area facing north, very specific. But it's satellite Wi-Fi, it works great, and we absolutely love it, and she can pick up calls. And our third way that we have communication is emergency only, and that's our Garmin InReach. And so this we can text our friends and family without emergency, no big deal. We can send them coordinates of where we are, so on and so forth, so they don't have to worry about us. But the SOS communication for emergency services is no joke. It is a huge fine if you use it for something that's like not emergency.
Yes.
So we just use that emergency only. We literally don't turn it on unless we're going hiking or like we know we need it.
And the third bonus tip is trash. Make sure you throw away trash before you're going to a boondocking spot. And of course, once you stay somewhere, you're gonna accumulate trash, but make sure that it is stored up well and is in a place that's not outside, because you don't want any animals to get to it. And it's kind of, you don't want to keep all that trash inside either. And so once we are able to fill those up, those are great to throw away almost anywhere since they're little trash bags. And when we are boondocking, sometimes we do just leave them in the car so they're not taking up space in our home.
We do appreciate you guys watching this far. We think those are our, I would say 5, I would say even 8 of the best tips of ours that we have for boondocking. We probably can't think of more, so if you want to see a part 2, make sure you comment that below. But we do appreciate you guys watching, and we love you guys. So make sure you comment, like, subscribe, and hit the bell in case we do make a part 2, right?
Yes, exactly.
But until then, what should they do? We say it every time.
We'll see you in the next video, and stay tuned.
tuned.
Bye!